In every form of competition, bitter rivalries form between fierce competitors. Oftentimes, they create stories that keep us interested, and they bring out the best in each other. For example, the Celtics and the Lakers, the Red Sox and the Yankees, heck, Stone Cold and The Rock, Vegeta and Goku, and, well, even Ash and Gary. The Pokemon TCG is no different. So let's take a look at some of the greatest rivalries we have in the Pokemon TCG. To kick things off at number 5, we have the legendary rivalry between Darkrai and Cresselia. Now, in the Pokemon lore, these two Pokemon have a lot of history. They're basically seen as polar opposites of each other. They're both part of the lunar duo. And you know what? Darkrai goes around flying, giving people nightmares, and then Cresselia has to come by and pretty much clean his mess up and give people better dreams. That's pretty much their rivalry. Darkrai's just going around trying to cause mischief, and Cresselia is just pretty much always trying to stop him. Now, in the TCG, this is expressed in a couple different ways. Now, the first one is, of course, Darkrai just kind of has type advantage. It resists Cresselia. But the main thing is, if you look at the Great Encounters version of Darkrai, the attack Darkness Pursuit does 50 damage, but if the defending Pokemon is Cresselia, it does 100 damage. Now, this is pretty much a joke in terms of the way Pokemon cards are designed. You might have some cards that say, hey, if the defending Pokemon is a basic Pokemon, there's some added bonus. If the defending Pokemon has so much HP, maybe an added bonus, but to single out a specific Pokemon is absolutely ridiculous. You look at it and you say, oh, if I happen to be facing a Cresselia, I'll be doing more damage. But most of the time, I'm just doing 50 damage. In fact, I don't think this had ever come up in competitive play at all. And it's just kind of silly to look at. So you can see these Pokemon clearly were meant to be rivals. The card creators knew that, and they gave Darkrai an absurd attack that just says, hey, go knock out those Cresselias, because that's what Darkrai does. The reason this pair of Pokemon is so low on the list is because they actually released a set of promos that benefited each other. It didn't make much sense. The Cresselia, if you have Darkrai in play, the Pokebody heals 10 from itself in between turns, and then the Darkrai, if you have a Cresselia in play, you actually do 20 additional damage. So these rivals work together for some reason with these two cards, and that's why they're so low on the list. Otherwise they would have been higher, but they decided to work together for a little bit. Still, this is one of the biggest rivalries in Pokemon, Darkrai and Cresselia. It's kind of like, you know, two twins, and they hate each other. One's the evil twin, one's the good one, and they always fight to see who comes out on top. So at number 5, we have Darkrai and Cresselia, the Lunar Duo. Next up on the list is Electrode and Fortress. Now you might be thinking, what? These Pokemon don't have a rivalry at all. But that's the thing. The rivalry is not with each other, but with themselves. Each of these cards has a history of just having attacks that blow themselves up for no real reason. Electrode, of course, is kind of the poster boy for self-destruct. You know, even in the anime, you know, someone would go ahead and touch it and it would explode. That's just kind of what Electrode does. And this is manifested through the cards as well. If you look at the very first Electrode, it's got the Pokemon Power Buzz app, which actually just knocks itself out and then provides an energy for you. So right off the bat, you can just see Electrode is trying to knock itself out. Fortress, pretty much doing the exact same thing. Its attack Pop puts 7 damage counters on itself, effectively knocking itself out. And yeah, I mean, it goes down with a bang, but it knocks itself out too. We've also had other Electrodes with attacks like Self-Destruct that would just blow itself up. You know, it not only blows itself up, does a lot of damage to the opponent, and then does 20 damage to each bench Pokemon, including yours as well. And then Fortress G, pretty similar thing. Bomb Risk, a very similar attack actually. Just, you're lucky with this because it could actually be a flip. So if you flip heads, you actually don't knock yourself out for once, but the risk is still there. You can still knock yourself out if you flip tails. And then also it damages your Pokemon once again. And then the third example of these things are Electrode's Mass Destruction, which just knocks itself out once again. This time it takes down the opponent with it for sure though. Just simply knocking both your Pokemon and the defending Pokemon out at once. And then Fortress, it's not happy even just blowing itself up. It has an attack called Everyone Explode Now, which does 30 damage to each of your Fortress and Pineco. So it's not only taking itself down, it's taking its family down with it. These Pokemon are clearly suicidal, and they will do whatever it takes to just blow themselves up. And that's why they're on this list. They are always in a battle against themselves. And you know what? These are not the only examples of this happening either. You know, I've shown 3 of each that have attacks that just damage themselves or even just knock themselves out straight away. But there are several more copies of Electrode that just knocks itself out. There are powers that just knock yourself out. There are attacks that do it. Fortress is the same thing. They are just not happy with damaging the opponent. They want to take themselves down too, and maybe even your other Pokemon as well. So number 4, Electrode and Fortress, they are going nuts. And number 3, we have another set of legendary Pokemon. This time we have Kyogre and Groudon. Now right off the bat, you can just kind of see that they are rivals. You know, one is water, one is land. One wants to bring the rain, one wants to bring the sun. So right off the bat, you can just see, yeah, these two Pokemon are going to clash. And you can see that pretty clearly in the cards that are made. We have Kyogre EX and Groudon EX both have the Pokebody Mark of Antiquity, which prevents the other one from attacking. So if you have them up there, you're just kind of at a stalemate, and nobody can do anything. These two Pokemon clearly hate each other, and they will do anything to get the upper hand. And apparently, once they get out there, they just can't hurt each other. That was one way for them to kind of show, alright, these Pokemon clearly are rivals. However, they also included Rayquaza EX into the mix, because Rayquaza is part of the Weather Trio. They are a trio of Pokemon. Of course, they represent 3 different elements: water for Kyogre, land for Groudon, and, you know, wind for Rayquaza. Just kind of the 3 major elements of the world. And they're all represented here, and they're all in a constant battle with each other. Now, the other set of promos that was released they all have the Frenzy Pokebody that, if your opponent has one of their rivals in play, their attacks do 40 more damage. So another part of the Pokemon lore between Kyogre and Groudon is that they're generally peaceful Pokemon. But then when they see each other, it's kind of like if you've ever seen Family Guy, where Peter and the giant chicken see each other. They just kind of drop everything and go to a fight to the death. That is literally what these Pokemon are. It says in their lore that they will just see each other and start a fight to the death. Rayquaza kind of comes in to be the mediator, I think, but if he wasn't there, they would just keep going at it. And this Frenzy Pokebody is supposed to represent that. So they do 40 more damage if each other is in play, and these Pokemon clearly don't like each other, but they exist. Rayquaza EX also has the Frenzy Pokebody, so they're all just kind of going at it, and yeah, I mean, they're just trying to take each other out. They use any advantage they can get, and that's why they are rivals, and that's why they're at number 3 on this list. We have 2 more to go. And number 2 on the greatest rivalries in the Pokemon TCG, we have Durant and Heatmore. Now you can see, obviously these guys are going to be rivals, One is an ant, one is an ant eater. They're not going to get along. You can just see Durant is it's a metal type in the TCG. It would be steel and bug in the video game, and Heatmore is fire. So pretty much everything is going Heatmore's way here. Pretty much he preys on Durant, and you can see that pretty much shown through the cards. Just take a look at even the flavor text. It says, using their very hot flame-covered tongues, Heatmore burn through Durant's steel bodies and consume their insides. That is pretty gross. I can't actually believe they printed that on a card in a children's card game, but they did. It just said straight up, Heatmore pretty much just sticks his tongue in there and sucks out the insides of Durant. And then for Durant's flavor text, it says basically they attack in groups, they have steel coverings on their bodies to protect themselves from Heatmore. So I don't know if this is actually a rivalry or more just Durant being hunted by Heatmore, but either way, this is pretty serious. In fact, it was so serious that Durant was actually a competitive deck in the TCG for quite a while, and then they released a Heatmore card that just said, alright, just takes 1 energy, 10 damage. Oh wait, if the defending Pokemon is Durant, this does 50 more damage, by the way. So it was effectively saying, alright, this is just a card that's not very good. Unless you're facing Durant, then it knocks it out immediately. And they basically eliminated the option of playing Durant by printing this one Heatmore card that says 1 colorless energy, immediately knock out Durant. So, a little ridiculous, and I think your rivalry is pretty serious when one is trying to eat the other. It's hard to get any more serious than that. Clearly, these two Pokemon are hated rivals. One flees for its life, one is just looking for food. But Heatmore and Durant, they are number 2, which means we have just one more rivalry left on this list. Finally, the biggest rivalry in the Pokemon TCG is none other than Seviper and Zangoose. Now these two Pokemon, just like Durant and Heatmore, clearly are meant to be enemies. One is a snake, one is a mongoose. They pretty much fight all the time. And this is seen not only through the cards, but through their Pokédex entries, and all sorts of other stuff. Just in general, Pokemon storytelling, these Pokemon have a history of just being bitter enemies, and that is what the rivalry is all about. They're always fighting with each other, and in fact, they will fight each other to the death if need be. So if you just want to take a look at some of the cards that have been printed, let's take a look at the first Zangoose ever printed. It has Target Slash, it does 10 damage, plus 30 if it's a Seviper. So you can see right there, it's going after Seviper and nothing else. 10 damage is weak, but it does extra damage to Seviper on the off chance that you're fighting one. Then we have another Zangoose that has Target Slash, just does 40 damage, unless your opponent has a Seviper in play. Then it does 50 more damage, and once again you're just seeing Zangoose. It's always got Seviper on its mind. Now, the last one, it just shows that even if there's nothing specifically targeting a Seviper, these Zangoose always have some sort of ability, Pokebody, whatever it is, that prevents it from being hit by a special condition, which would be Seviper's poison. So even when it's not specifically targeting Seviper, it's just kind of saying, I know you're out there, Seviper. I'm still ready for you. I can't be poisoned. And these two Pokemon just, it's kind of like the Montagues and the Capulets from Romeo and Juliet. They hate each other. They want to kill each other. They want to just wipe the other off the face of the earth. They will do whatever it takes. They just do not like each other. So that's why Seviper and Zangoose are number 1 on this list. They are clearly the greatest rivals in Pokemon, whether it's the TCG or just the anime. These two things just do not get along, and they never will. In fact, there are instances in the cartoon where just the mere presence of seeing the other one will, or even just sensing the other one, will force like a Seviper to pop out of its Pokeball and just start fighting. They won't even have to be called out. They just pop out and start fighting each other. So these Pokemon hate each other so much that they can sense each other, they can smell it, they can feel it, and they will always just be fighting. So that's why Seviper and Zangoose, greatest rivalry in the Pokemon TCG. And that's going to wrap up this list. Alright guys, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate all of your support and everybody who watched this. If you have any feedback for me, if you think I messed some things up, or maybe I forgot something, or I got the order wrong, let me know down in the comments. It's definitely open to interpretation, and we can discuss it. Otherwise, I am Pooka from the Top Cut. We'll have some more videos out for you soon. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.